up at 30 past the hour. But there are lots of stories in the news that are of great concern to me, and I'm sure they are to you as well. And of course, recently we saw that this movie Wicked was released, where it turns the world upside down. The good guys are the bad guys, and the bad guys are the good guys. Isn't it interesting? We want to humanize the villains so we can relate to them better, I guess, because the world is gray, you know. Interesting. I want to read this article over at FirstThings.com. Make Villains Wicked Again to you by Jermaine Saucedo. And I'll put a link to it for you in the show notes over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT, because I think there's much for us to think about and ponder today. You'll have to excuse my voice. I'm getting sick, so my voice is a little bit hoarse and raspy. I'll try to do my best to be as clear as I can. Make Villains Wicked Again. It says, in recent years, Hollywood has produced movies that cast once irredeemable villains such as Maleficent, Cruella de Vil, and the Joker in a sympathetic light. The 2003 Broadway musical Wicked, adapted from the 1995 novel, was ahead of the curve in that regard. In this retelling of The Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West, or Elphaba, is no evil villain but a misunderstood victim. Last month, the first part of the musical's cinematic adaptation hit theaters to critical and box office success. It is now the highest grossing musical adaptation ever. This bodes well for Hollywood, which is sure to capitalize on the film's success and fans of the sympathetic villain genre. However, it does not bode well for our culture. Hollywood's tendency to subvert classic villains, and as a consequence, classic heroes, usually in response to the latest progressive agenda, indicates a lack of social moral clarity, which is sure to have consequences. Wicked starts in media res. After the Wicked Witch of the West's supposed demise at the hands of Dorothy, the people of Munchkinland cheer and celebrate the good news given by Glinda the Good. During the celebration, a little girl asks Glinda, "Why does wickedness happen?" "That's a good question," she replies. "Are people born wicked, or do they have wickedness thrust upon them?" Cue the flashback. In many ways, Elphaba fits into a recent archetype of the contemporary female hero. The unappreciated girl who reads. Smart, naturally gifted, righteous, she is the type of girl who takes pride in correcting people's grammar and speaking up for the downtrodden. In this case, Oz's talking animals, the film's catch-all representation of marginalized peoples. But because of the color of her skin, bright green, a mystery since birth, and her volatile magic, she is ostracized. Her virtue goes unrecognized. Through a series of haphazard events, Elphaba is offered the opportunity to attend Shiz University, Oz's most prestigious academy for future sorcerers. She is forced to room with Glinda, the future good witch of the South. Madame Morrible, the dean of sorcery, notices Elphaba's gifts and seeks to help her achieve her potential in true modern girl boss fashion. Once she learns to control her magic, she'll be granted an audience with the wizard, who will fulfill her heart's desire to stop being green and therefore be accepted and loved. Elphaba joins the pantheon of Mary Sue's, one-dimensional wish fulfillment characters onto which female viewers can project themselves, that have become a crutch of modern cinema. Elphaba's only significant character growth, as is often the case with Mary Sue's, consists of discovering the power within. She has no real character flaws, and her only perceived defect, the color of her skin, is, in the end, not something to be changed, but a gift to be embraced. The wizard, when Elphaba finally meets him, is predictably revealed to be a fraud. He and Madame Morrible decide to scapegoat Elphaba, who refuses to partake in the wizard's totalitarian ambition, which includes controlling Oz's animal and rendering them mute. She is declared wicked, a common enemy that serves to unite the people of Oz and distract them from the real threat, the power-hungry patriarch. Wicked grants the audience, if nothing else, a valuable warning against the easy path of guardian scapegoatism, in which social cohesion is built through the identification of an enemy unto whom the society's burdens can be transferred. There is a risk, however, in removing innately evil villains from film, one of the main fountains of the contemporary collective imagination. The risk is that we can forget true heroism in the process. Some cheer the rise of villain origin story, arguing that it represents a growing audience maturity in which characters are allowed to function like actual people with moral complexity. In the real world, they claim, Manichaeism rarely applies. Our choices are never as black and white as they are in fiction. In this view, villains like the Wicked Witch or Maleficent require an origin story or a redemption arc, a path forward perfectibly taken or avoided that exposes the audience to moral grayness. The clear image of evil presents in the best fairy tales, ballads, myths, and legends offer both a vision of what is to be avoided at all cost, as well as a vision of virtue. Let me pause there for a second, because I think it's worse than that. I think it's a subtle nudge towards evil. Just like in the conversation between Eve and the great Nahash, the serpent, or as Revelation 12 said, the seven-headed dragon, the ancient serpent. Did God truly say that you may not eat of any of the trees? Wait, hold on. That's a subtle change. It's just a subtle lie. It's a nudge towards the evil. Isn't that interesting? We see musicals being used in powerful ways, something I talked about last week with the Catholic rapper Enoch. Music is a powerful medium to capture people's attention, their minds, their hearts, and even push them towards an agenda. And this musical, as well as many others, The Greatest Showman, anyone? Fiddler on the Roof, pushing people, nudging people towards the wicked, pun intended. It goes on. As such, the sympathetic villain genre is a symptom of a society that disagrees on what is good and what is evil, or that tries to explain evil away as trauma, psychopathy, or pathology. But to identify and avoid evil, we must first learn to recognize the good. The instance on subverting villains is a sign we have lost confidence in our belief that we can know what heroism looks like, a heroism that displays the good that would oppose their unrighteousness. In a world without any moral certitude or any agreed upon system to define that true virtue, what is wickedness anyhow? It would be just a matter of perspective. Let that sink in. Graying these moral virtues, graying wickedness from goodness, graying truth from error, the good guys from the bad guys in our entertainment, will gray that in the minds of young people, of little ones who are subjected to this propaganda piece. They will grow up in a world where they can't tell the difference, and therefore there is no difference, and therefore everybody is just okay. They're just trying real hard, Joe, you know. Golly gee whiz, it's the grayness of the area. It goes on, a recent subversion of the genre can be seen in the brilliant recent Max miniseries, The Penguin. The show flirts with the idea that classic Batman villain might deserve our sympathy. But in the end, the Penguin reveals himself to have no redeeming qualities. In a harrowing flashback, we witness him killing his two brothers when they were children. The remorse we expect never comes. The audience is made to feel disgusted for having ever sympathized with him in the first place. This is also interesting considering I've gone through the terminal list on Prime. I used VidAngel filters because of the graphic nature of it all to filter it out to make it more tolerable, but it kind of is the reverse of this. It's a good guy character that we sympathize with after he goes on a killing spree to revenge his dead wife, his dead child, and his dead teammates in his SEAL team. We sympathize with him because he's the good guy who was treated badly. And his wife and kids didn't deserve to die. His teammates didn't deserve to die. And the bad people in the film, they definitely deserve to die. So we sympathize with this darkness. And yet it's the words of the Lord that remind me that vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. What is it to be a saint but to forgive, as Jesus says in Matthew's gospel? He tells us if we are to be like God, then we must forgive even our enemies. What credit is it to you if you cannot forgive your enemy? And we live in a world where the good guys are the bad and the bad guys are the good, and wrong is right and right is wrong. And we tolerate it, and we tolerate it, and we tolerate it. The article concludes, evil calls upon heroism to confront it. In the final shot of the show, we see that bat signals shine across the Gotham sky. The Penguin's malice evokes Batman's righteousness, just as the wickedness of the Witch of the West evokes Dorothy's good-heartedness and bravery. True evil deserves its place on the screen. Confidence, when displaying it in our stories, is essential to never losing sight of the good we strive toward in our fight against it. And that's the article, Make Villains Wicked Again, from FirstThings.com. I'll put a link to it in the show notes for you. But we have a choice in this world. We're living in times where confusion will reign supreme, where we will be manipulated on all sides. And our friends, our family members, our coworkers, our grown children who have walked away from Holy Mother Church will buy this wicked, wicked, subtle lie. What can we do about that? Well, we can live in a state of grace, pursue virtue, and be bold and courageous for the glory of God and for the salvation of souls, because soon we will be dead. And wouldn't it be great to live a moment as an eagle rather than a lifetime as a turtle? You know what else we can do? We could fan the flame of goodness in the world. Coming up after the break, I have a good news story for you. Mass of the Ages has got some great stories to share at an epic level that will capture hearts and minds. It's something that you can do right now to help. We're going to talk about that coming up after the break. Share us with a friend. More is coming. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.